when an entire city was chosen as a sacrifice. Floodwaters swallowed Zhuozhou once again. That night, there were no sirens, only water slamming against walls, water surging from the sewers, water hissing like something out for revenge, a mother clutching her child atop a delivery truck, an old man carrying his elderly mother through waist-deep mud, a jewelry shop owner watching his entire life savings swept away. No one screamed because they had already done that 2 years ago. Zhuozhou, a city, no one protected, a city no one asked. Once again, it drowned, not because of the floodwaters, but because it was chosen to drown. July 26, 2025. The water rose 4 meters high. But what drowned the people wasn't just water. It was the memory of 2023, when they were turned into a living flood barrier to shield Beijing. When children asked, "Why is our home at the lowest point on the map?" No one had an answer. When 84-year-old Mr. Chen was jolted awake by the sound of water slamming against the walls like a hammer, no one came to knock, no one warned of the flood. And when desperate cries for help surfaced online, the question returned once more. Why is it always Zhuozhou? Today, natural destruction will take you through the rising waters of Zhuozhou, not just to witness the flood, but to ask, what is truly drowning us? July 25th, 2025. The rain began the night before, quiet, steady. But no one expected what would come next. 12 hours later, an entire year's worth of rain had fallen. In just one day, in Beijing, Hebei, home to the city of Zhuozhou, rainfall reached 448.7 millimeters in 24 hours, according to the China Meteorological Administration. That's 95% of the region's annual average, dumped in a single storm. Zhuozhou, a city of 700,000 people, lies beside the Beiluo River tucked between two megacities, Beijing and Xiong'an. Technically, it's labeled a buffer zone. But when the floods came, it became something else entirely, a sacrifice zone. Heavy rain wasn't the surprise. Every summer, northern China faces seasonal downpours. What was unusual was the collapse of the flood defense system. Water surged in from the western mountains, from Shaanxi and Shanxi, too fast, too sudden. The levees? They hadn't been upgraded since the catastrophic floods of 2023, but most critically, there was no evacuation plan. Not before, not even as the water came. The water rose so fast that cars were submerged up to the roof. People had no choice but to climb on top of their vehicles to survive. Huayang Bridge, one of the city's main arteries, was completely cut off. Sections of the Beijing, Hong Kong, Macau expressway were shut down, and the East Zhuozhou high-speed rail station was paralyzed until midday on July 27th. But if you think this was just an unexpected disaster, then you don't yet understand Zhuozhou. Zhuozhou was already sacrificed once back in 2023. During that historic storm, authorities made a calculated decision to release floodwaters from reservoirs surrounding Beijing, and Zhuozhou, low-lying and expendable, was chosen to become a moat, an artificial flood basin, to protect the capital and the brand-new Xiong'an new area. Hundreds of thousands of residents received no early warning. Many only had time to climb onto rooftops, clutching their children, and hoping that night wouldn't be their last. And it wasn't just Zhuozhou. Torrential rains pounded Gansu, Shanxi, and Shaanxi, triggering landslides, severing roads, and leaving dozens missing in the town of Dongshuan. Even in Beijing itself, in Fangshan and Shijingshan districts, residents waded through chest-deep floodwaters. Cars were swept away like toys. According to Tsinghua University Climate Lab, extreme rainfall events in northern China have increased 1.7 times over the past decade. Meanwhile, investment in drainage, levees, and early warning systems has dropped 23% since 2020 in several northern provinces, according to China Environmental News. This is a story about nature's fury. Yes, but more than that, it's a story about people unprepared for nature and political decisions unprepared for their consequences in a disaster. A city drowned for the second time. A system still unchanged, and hundreds of thousands of lives still caught in the gale of silence. Mrs. Li and her 6-year-old daughter on top of a truck in rising floodwaters. Zhuozhou, 6 a.m., July 26, Li 38, a garment factory worker near the West Industrial Zone. When water hit, she grabbed her daughter from bed, put on a raincoat, tied a red scarf to her head, so rescue could see her. I wasn't scared of dying, I was scared no one would know we were alive. They waited 9 hours on the truck, no food, no water. The child slept, head on her mother's shoulder. Rain kept falling. When rescuers came, she cried, not because she was saved, but because she was still holding her daughter. Mr. Ye, the jeweler who lost his life's work in 30 minutes, Mr. Ye, 57, owned the Laofeng Xiang gold shop in Wuqixian, Shaanxi. When he heard about the flood, he rushed back. But before he could unlock the safe, water burst in. Glass shattered, jewelry floated, then vanished. Over 40 kilograms of gold gone. I'm not hurt by what I lost. I'm hurt because I put my whole life into this place. After the flood, some locals returned pieces, a bracelet, a gold watch, a bent necklace. No one made them do it. He said, in the middle of the flood, I saw the heart of people, and I knew I'd start again from that faith. On the worst days, we don't know each other's names, but we still pull one another from the water. A rescuer with an injured leg carried an elderly woman for 3 kilometers. A young man dove into freezing water to save a boy trapped in a car. An old man gave shelter to strangers in his damp room. He couldn't let anyone sleep outside. No one asked for names, only presence. In a flood that swept everything away, kindness was what remained. Disasters have no memory, but people do. Zhuozhou survived 2023, only to be forgotten again in 2025. Old wounds never healed, new ones cut deeper. What makes a city face its worst floods twice in 2 years? Maybe the fault isn't nature, but a system built on silence. Disasters spare no one. But responsibility is never equally shared. When policy, planning, and media aren't distributed fairly, the vulnerable always pay the first price. We, those who tell the story, may not have the power to rescue, but we have a duty to make sure their pain doesn't drown with the flood. Amid the ruins, the people rise. They wipe the mud from school books. They rebuild rooftops. They look to the sky not to curse it, but to be ready. But next time, will they be warned before the rain falls? Or will they have to learn to swim again in the dark, without direction? This is natural destruction, where we tell the story of disasters not just through data, but through the lives behind them. See you in the next video. And remember, disasters have no nationality, but responsibility always has a name.